G'day viewers. A genuine 17th century Schiavona has come briefly into my possession, so I thought you might be interested in a quick compare and contrast between the Schiavona and the Highland Broadsword of the same era. So this is just a very quick little video to give you a look at a genuine Schiavona. So these are the two swords that we're looking at. We've got a 17th century Highland Broadsword, which I have reviewed before, and a Venetian Schiavona of about the same age. Okay, so they're both 17th century weapons, and superficially they look pretty similar. They've both got fairly broad cutting blades with a single fairly slim fuller down the forte of the sword. Both come to something approaching a point, but nonetheless the blades are both very thin, and you can see how wobbly that is when I wave it back and forth. So they're both military cutting swords with very wide, thin blades, and of course they both have a form of basket hilt around the hand to protect the hand. But there are significant differences. So this one comes in at about 1.4 kilos, and you can see, hopefully, that that blade is significantly broader than the Schiavona. The Schiavona comes in at a shade under 1.2 kilos, and that does make a fairly significant difference in the hand. Okay, so this needs to be swung with bigger arm movements than the Schiavona. That extra 200 grams or so does make a big difference. The other enormous difference between the two is in the hilt. So both have basket hilts, both are quite snug. They're nicely shaped around my hand, but there's certainly no extra room in there. But if I just put this one down for a sec, the Schiavona comes with a thumb ring. Okay, so it's an asymmetrical hilt for a right-handed person, and it comes with this thumb ring in there. So when I hold it, I grip it with a hammer fist and I stick my thumb in the little loop. And that extra point of leverage allows me to do things that I cannot do with the hammer fist broadsword. Okay, so obviously the rising actions like that, I can wrench that up with the use of my thumb really, really easily. And I have to be a little careful because the cat has decided to come and visit me down there. But also just turning the sword, either arresting the motion in order to stop it with the point on line, or reversing the action of the cut, is a lot easier with that thumb ring in there. So this is a much more maneuverable sword than the Claymore is. The balance point on both of them is about the same. Not that I find balance point per se being particularly useful, but they're both about sort of 10 centimeters forward of the cross. So both swords feel like that. They feel like they want to cut through in a big circle, rather than sitting sort of balanced back in the hand. So they're obviously supposed to be used in a similar-ish fashion in that they're designed to deliver good, solid, downright blows, but with the thumb ring on the Schiavona and the 200 grams of lightness, it's definitely a more maneuverable weapon. Now, I happen to have a couple of Schiavonas, one for the left hand and one for the right hand. These are, if you are interested, Darkwood Schiavona hilts with Alchem blades on them after the original Darkwood blades busted many years ago. And if I compare the balance and weight of my repros with this one, they're pretty good. They're a nice reproduction of how the real thing feels, with the following caveat. This has no thumb ring. It is designed to be gripped with your finger around the cross, side sword style, which allows me to do the up-down motions and arresting motions and quick turns in a very similar way to the thumb ring. but it is a different grip. And I've always used these as kind of my bolognese swords. The Schiavona, I guess I could, in theory, stick my thumb around there, but it's not the way it's designed. Okay, that's a full width blade and it's quite sharp, and it's obviously not designed for you to stick your finger over there. It's designed to be gripped with a normal hammer handshake grip with your thumb in the thumb ring. And every historical Schiavona I have seen has been like this. They've come with thumb rings and not with anything that indicates you stick your finger over the cross. Now, admittedly, the sample size I'm talking about is 3, not a lot. So the question is, do all Schiavonas come with a thumb ring? Are there any Schiavonas without thumb rings? Are there any Schiavonas that are clearly designed for an Italian grip with your finger over the cross like that? Or is this wrong? Is this inaccurate? I would be very interested to find out. The other thing that I think is interesting to look at is, as I say, these weigh and balance about the same, but look at the difference in the blade profile. So you've got a very broad, basically parallel all the way sword, as opposed to the very triangular Alchem blade. And yet the amount of metal in these two swords, in the blades, is about the same, as given by the weight and balance, because this is so thin. If I turn that on the camera, it just disappears because there's nothing to it, and it wobbles. Honestly, it's even more wobbly than the broadsword, and broadswords can get pretty wobbly. Whereas this one, being a sparring sword, that metal is all squished down into a thick edge sort of triangle thing, which is why I love these blades, because they really do give the same sort of a fake distal taper as opposed to the real thing, which you can't really spar with anything that thin. But I thought it'd be interesting to see how little metal is in the broad blade of a broad cutting sword down that end. Okay, there's very little there, which is what is a much better indication of a sword's wieldiness than, say, balance point, which, as I say, I don't find very useful. Anyway, so that is the historical Schiavona. It's a very nice piece, I guess. Not entirely my cup of tea, but nonetheless a really nice sword. And if anybody out there has access to more than 3 and can tell me, do any Schiavonas work like that, or are they all like that? That would be really interesting to know. Thanks for watching.